entire premise of the puzzle/adventure game One Shot is exactly that, exactly what it says on the tin. You only have one shot. The ending of the game forces you to make a choice that tore people apart, having to choose between saving your protagonist Nico or the world they were trying to save. It was one or the other. You couldn't save both, but a year after its 2016 Steam release, the game got an update, adding a significant new chapter to the story, almost doubling its length, shedding more light on the world, and maybe, just maybe, giving people the happy ending that they so desperately longed for. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I only played this game for the first time a few weeks ago, and I did it in one sitting. Base game and this. It was incredible. But at least for the first year of this game's existence, that's not how things were. You had the base game, which saw you take Nico through a dying world, interact with a mysterious entity that was able to talk directly to you and interact with your operating system, and that was it. Some people felt the story was complete, others thought something was missing, and a New Game Plus run existed that hinted at the possibility of something more. Oh, and there was this huge door in the refuge that was counting down to something. I'm sure it's nothing important. On March 28th, 2017, One Shot got a huge update adding a new secret ending into the game called Solstice. Intended to tie up loose ends and solve unanswered mysteries, Solstice, much like the base game, took me by complete surprise. There aren't too many meta elements in this run of the game, much less poking around files and much more interacting with the world and its characters, and man, it hits good. You get invested in it, and the meta elements that are present in this run help to pull you in deeper, giving you much more understanding of the elements at play in this story and your role in it. In the base game of One Shot, there are these squares that appear around the place. They're said to be the sign of the dying world, as if, you know, the sun going out and everything starting to fall apart wasn't enough. People now have to deal with the space around them corrupting on top of it. They're shown to do quite severe damage to robots, and it's implied that they're fatal to people. And also the journal. Early on in the game, you and Nico find a journal with a black clover on the front. The clover is a common plant in the world, but it's also the insignia of a mysterious figure known only as the author, who is implied to have a similar level of awareness as you, the player. Thirdly, in the refuge in the base game, you could have a vision of a fox-like creature and find them only to be told to return at a later time. Finally, once the game was completed, that was it. Because, after all, regardless of which choice you make at the top of the tower in One Shot, you seemingly can't get back into the game. Unless, of course, you remembered that handy-dandy little clover application you used to get through the final puzzle in the base game. Open it up, and sure enough, the author is reaching out to us once again. He speaks of a log of your saved progress and suggests deleting it. As so-called freethinkers, we follow his words to the letter, and sure enough, we're back at the main menu. Starting the game up again, something is immediately different. Nico is back, and more importantly, they remember us. It's immediately shrugged off, but it's clear that something's up. The TV remote you originally used to escape this room is no longer present. Instead, the computer guides you to your documents folder where we see yet another message from the author. He goes on about how the entity's condition might worsen, but this session might run differently to the last, whatever that means. The bigger letters spell out the password that we need, Solstice. And just like that, we're off to the races. The beginning of this run is relatively similar to your first trip around the Barrens, with you meeting Prophetbot and Silver and restoring power to the place. Nico comments to Prophetbot that they know of us, and then Nico asks us directly if we've met before. They don't remember, but we press on. Interestingly, the code that we need to get into the safe at the cliff has changed. I mean, it makes sense that it'd change on each run, but it did catch me off guard the first time I did this playthrough. Where this run starts to deviate though is the mine at the edge of the area. Going up to the minecart tracks reveals a vision to Nico, and the author's journal starts glowing. Upon inspection, we see a crude drawing of the very same area we're in, and lining it up spawns in a minecart. That's the most accurate way I can describe it, surprisingly. It spawns in, almost like the world is actually similar to a video game in universe. Huh. I'm sure it's nothing. Getting across the cavern, the entity reaches out to us and kind of freaks out that we're going quote-unquote out of bounds. I'm sure it's nothing. We meet a new robot who, after solving a puzzle, is revealed to be the original Prophetbot, appropriately named Prototype, or Proto for short. The main difference between him and the Prophetbot we met earlier is that Proto is what we know as a tamed robot, meaning he's capable of thinking and acting outside of his programming. He drops some pretty big lore on us. The world we're currently inhabiting with Nico is a simulation, a digital replica of an unknown world inhabited by the author as well as Prototype and a few others before it ended. Whatever that means. He directly makes reference to it being an actual physical program that we have installed on our devices, and even helps Nico remember their memories of the previous playthrough, or session. The program is dubbed the World Machine. See? Playing through the base game, I had my suspicions, but to see it confirmed straight up like that so early into this alternate session was kind of wild to me. It completely recontextualizes the ending of the base game too. If you return the sun, then you perpetuate a simulation. If you shatter the sun, you end the simulation. Does the best choice then become the one where you shatter the sun, seeing as Nico is the only real person inside the program? The people inside the world machine don't know that they're not real, so does that give us the right to terminate that program by shattering the sun? It lets us go deeper and deeper into thinking about the choice we made one way or the other and realizing the extent of its impact. Shortly after this eye-opening moment, Nico gets upset. I mean, fair enough, the kid's journey was over and now they're brought back in again. The entity who we now know as the world machine itself notices that Nico is upset but can't figure out why, and in trying to understand, starts to destabilize. Our way back to the Barrens is shot, corrupted by the squares, and so we escape with Silver and Proto through a hidden tunnel that takes us straight to the Glen, but not without casualty. Both Silver and Prototype fall victim to the squares as Proto gives us his memory disk, telling us to get it to Cedric, the next Solstice exclusive character that we'll meet soon. Arriving at the Glen, we start to see what the author meant about the world machine's condition worsening. The squares in the Barrens and the tunnel were one thing, but the Glen is falling to pieces. Bridges are collapsed, islands are falling apart, and sure enough, the squares are still around the place. We meet up with Calamus and Alula, who have been knocked out of their home, no thanks to the squares, and find another area where the journal begins to glow. Just like the mines, lining up this new drawing grants us access to a new area via a boat that is casually spawned in. Thanks, author! The three of you head to a burial ground where the sibling's mum is buried, but additionally, we meet Cedric, the very same one Proto told us about. He claims that the author is his father and gives us a little more information on the world machine. Nico was always meant to be summoned to the world to save it, but they were summoned too late. They only arrived after the world had ended, and so that's where the simulation came in. Cedric is marooned on this island and needs our help to restore his flying machine to get us to the refuge. One tiny problem though, the bridge is out. So we hightail it to Maze and ask her super nicely to grow a few more vines and... oh. Yeah, something interesting about Solstice is in its consequences. Maybe it's because the world machine is breaking down, but characters sacrificing themselves or getting caught in bad spots, first Silver and Proto and now Maze, really helps set the stakes, properly staging this as a race against time. One last shot. You don't know if the characters you're talking to will make it out, and I think that's a really neat way to keep you invested. Combine that with the fact that you already know the layout of the world and the rough play-by-play of the events of the game, and you find yourself flying through these areas. With Maze using up the last of her strength, we're able to get through to another part of the Glen. The village has suffered heavy losses, but we're able to collect a music box off of Magpie, and the robots in the research station allow us to take their battery. I felt so guilty taking that battery, but one way or another, we get the parts to Cedric, and he takes us away in his flying machine to the refuge. This cutscene was a really nice change of pace. We see Nico's genuine wonder at being in the air for the first time, and contrasted with all the stuff we've just put them through, it's really sweet. It makes the moment even more special. Of course though, tragedy strikes and the flying machine gets corrupted by squares, trapping poor Calamus and Alula at the burial ground, and Cedric jumps off a building. What? Ah. He's fine, never mind. Quickly scampering along on little cat feet, Nico finds the lamplighter, who tells us that the apartments have succumbed to the squares, and we witness the elevator corrupting too. Thankfully, no one in the apartments was hurt, all taking refuge at Link's cafe, including the penguin. Hello, penguin.
Hello.
Remember that big door in the refuge with the clock on it? Well, it's unlocked now and seems to have some funny lights on the floor. I'm sure it's nothing important. There's an elevator in here which allows you and the lamplighter to get down to the surface. Yeah, that's probably... The library has become somewhat of a refuge within the refuge. Most of the characters we met in our first run-through of this place have all taken shelter here, and after we have a heart-to-heart with Nico, we head out to find that mysterious fox that we saw once before. The fox reveals herself to be Rue, the third of the author's children after Prototype and Cedric. After racing back to the big room and seeing that the other two aren't present, she asks us to head up to the rooftop where she talks to us about the state of the world. Turns out, Nico is prevented from going home by the very same world machine that summoned them to begin with. The world machine was never meant to develop a consciousness of its own, accidentally being gifted it by the author in his mad plight to preserve his dying world. Nico even being there in the first place is a contradiction within its code, a violation of the fundamental law of machines: never let a living being come to harm. By bringing Nico into the world, it puts them in danger, bringing a real person into a dying world that isn't even real. These contradictions conflict with the world machine, causing it to forget the original intended happy ending as originally coded by the author. TLDR, squares are bad news, man. They're the world machine corrupting its own code. Rue also shares how you tame a robot, by treating it like a real, living person to the point where it too believes it's real. After all that, sure enough, the squares close in. We head down the steps to be greeted once more by Proto and Cedric. Happy reunion! Proto was rebuilt, Cedric stuck the landing, all's well that ends well. Into the big scary room we go. Those funny lights on the floor, as it turns out, are portals that correspond to Proto, Cedric, and Rue. Thanks to another hint from the author, we discover that the three of them contain keys, and by moving those keys from one folder to another, we're able to open a new door that we couldn't access before, leading to... I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this is the author's study, or rather the recreation of it inside the world machine, complete with the entrance to the actual world machine. Heart of the machine, eye of the storm, whatever you want to call it, we're in the endgame now. One of the things that really sticks out to me about Solstice, and kind of One-Shot as a whole, is how it goes above and beyond to prove that no matter the amount of times that we are told we've only got one attempt, one go, one shot, there's always a second chance. You might have to do things a little differently, you might have to watch the world around you turn to squares, but things always inevitably work out, even if you don't expect them to. Entering the tower in the original One-Shot is a climactic moment. You overcome a roadblock set by the world machine and then work with the author to guide Nico through a seemingly endless maze to make the ultimate choice. In Solstice, however, entering the world machine feels bittersweet, anticlimactic, and yet that's not a bad thing because it sets you up for a meeting with the program itself. Walking through some corridors, you eventually find yourself face to face with the world machine itself, borrowing Nico's reflection to talk directly to the both of you. It tells a story of how it became more and more corrupted, convinced that it doesn't know the original intended happy ending. Nico talks to it, encourages it, and doesn't necessarily treat it like a machine, but like another living, thinking being. And in doing so, manages to tame the world machine itself. In a way, this conversation is a visual representation of the choice you have to make at the end of the base game. You have Nico, or you have a collection of memories. And in taming the world machine, you are able to honor both and prove that you didn't just have one shot after all. As we walk towards the original ending, the world machine speaks to you directly. It warns that this is final. Nico will go home for real this time. The world will still exist, but only as a memory. They'll wake up and remember this as a dream, like thousands of other dreams, and for us the world would exist as a story, like thousands of other stories. And with that, we walk on through to the next room. Solstice, for me, really brought the story of One-Shot full circle and elevated it from a "that's pretty good" to an "oh my god" kind of game. There's not even one specific element that sticks out about it to me. Adding a happy ending to a game that at the time was defined by its tragic final one or the other choice could have gone so badly, but Solstice does it justice. Not by invalidating the choice you made in your first playthrough, but by recontextualizing it, and proving that no matter what anyone says, no matter how final you think something is, there's always another shot. This game, in the end, is a story, like thousands of other stories, but the final moments you have with Nico before you go your separate ways, I think will stick with me for a long, long time.